Bikers harass a lone woman on the highway moments later. They're chased down in terror. The roar of motorcycles echoed through the barren landscape as the gang of bikers tore down the highway. Their leather jackets, emblazoned with the fierce emblem of a snarling wolf, flapped in the wind. The leader, a grizzled man named Ripper, sneered beneath his dark sunglasses. He reveled in the fear they instilled in others, the way people cowered at the mere sight of them. As they thundered past weathered gas stations and abandoned roadside diners, a solitary figure caught Ripper's eye. A woman, her blonde hair whipping across her face, stood alone by a battered pickup truck on the shoulder. Ripper signaled to his crew and they slowed, circling the woman like a pack of hungry predators. Well, what do we have here?" Ripper drawled, dismounting his bike. "All alone in the middle of nowhere?" The woman, Sadie, lifted her chin defiantly. "I don't want any trouble. My truck broke down and I'm just waiting for a tow." "Trouble?" Ripper chuckled darkly. "Darlin', Trouble is our middle name." He reached out, brushing a strand of hair from her face. Sadie flinched away. "Leave me alone," she warned, her voice steady despite the fear pulsing through her veins. Ripper's men laughed, a harsh and grating sound. They began to close in, their eyes glinting with malice. But before they could take another step, the roar of an engine shattered the tense silence. A sleek, black motorcycle crested the hill, its rider a blur of leather and determination. The bikers turned, reaching for the weapons concealed in their jackets. The approaching rider didn't slow, aiming straight for Ripper. At the last second, the rider veered, coming to a stop between Sadie and the gang. The mysterious figure removed their helmet, revealing a woman with fiery red hair and piercing green eyes. "I suggest you boys move along," she said calmly. "Now?" Sadie gasped, recognizing her old friend and ally. "Max," she breathed. Ripper's eyes narrowed as he sized up the newcomer. Max stood tall, her posture relaxed but alert. She radiated an aura of quiet strength, a stark contrast to the biker's bravado. "This doesn't concern you," Ripper spat. "Walk away while you still can." Max smiled faintly. "I'm afraid I can't do that. You see, Sadie here is under my protection, and I don't take kindly to those who threaten my friends." The bikers shifted uneasily, sensing that Max was not to be underestimated. Ripper, however, refused to back down. He drew a knife from his belt, the blade glinting in the harsh sunlight. "Protection," he scoffed. "What are you, some kind of hero? Out here, there are no heroes. Only the strong and the weak." Max didn't flinch. She met Ripper's gaze steadily. "You're right," she agreed. "There are no heroes, but there are those who stand up for what's right. And I stand with Sadie." Tension crackled in the air as the two sides faced off. Sadie held her breath, her heart pounding. She knew Max was capable, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. Suddenly, the roar of engines shattered the silence once more. A dozen motorcycles crested the hill, their riders clad in matching leather jackets bearing a phoenix emblem. They surrounded the bikers, cutting off any escape. Ripper's men looked to their leader uncertainly. Ripper snarled, realizing they were outmatched. He sheathed his knife, his eyes promising retribution. "This isn't over," he warned as he mounted his bike. "You've made a powerful enemy today." Max watched impassively as the bikers rode off, their taillights fading into the distance. She turned to Sadie, her expression softening. "Are you all right?" she asked, placing a comforting hand on her friend's shoulder. Sadie nodded, relief washing over her. "Thanks to you," she said gratefully. "But Max, who are they? And why did they come to our aid?" Max smiled enigmatically. "They're the Phoenix Riders," she explained. "A group dedicated to helping those in need and standing up to injustice. And as for why they came," she shrugged. "Let's just say I made a few calls. Come on, let's get your truck fixed and head back to town. We have work to do." As Sadie climbed onto Max's bike, she couldn't help but feel a flicker of hope. With Max and the Phoenix Riders on their side, perhaps they stood a chance against Ripper and his gang's reign of terror. Perhaps change was on the horizon, sparked by the courage of a few brave souls willing to take a stand. The news of Max's confrontation with the bikers spread through the small town like wildfire. Whispers of hope mingled with the ever-present undercurrent of fear. For years, Ripper and his gang had held the town in an iron grip, extorting businesses and terrorizing anyone who dared to defy them. Max and Sadie sat in a cozy booth at the local diner, nursing cups of steaming coffee. The owner, a kind-hearted woman named Rose, had insisted on serving them a complimentary meal as a token of her gratitude. "You're the talk of the town," Rose confided as she refilled their mugs. "People are starting to believe that maybe, just maybe, we can stand up to Ripper and his goons." Max stirred a packet of sugar into her coffee, her expression thoughtful. "It's not going to be easy," she cautioned. "Ripper won't back down without a fight, and he has a lot of pull in this town." Sadie nodded, her brow furrowed. "The police are in his pocket, and he has the mayor wrapped around his finger. It's like he's untouchable." Max leaned forward, her green eyes intense. "No one is untouchable," she declared. "We just need to find a way to expose his crimes and rally the community behind us. It's time for the people of this town to take their power back." As they spoke, a commotion erupted outside the diner. Max and Sadie rushed to the window, their eyes widening at the sight of Ripper and his gang roaring down the main street, smashing windows and overturning trash cans. The bikers screeched to a halt outside the diner, their engines revving menacingly. Ripper dismounted, sauntering towards the entrance with a cruel smile on his face. "You didn't think I'd forgotten about our little encounter, did you?" he taunted as he stepped inside, his men flanking him. The diner fell silent, the patrons frozen in fear. Max stood slowly, her posture deceptively relaxed. "I was hoping you'd come to your senses and leave this town in peace," she said evenly. "But I see now that was too much to hope for." Ripper laughed, a harsh and grating sound. "Peace? There's no peace in this world, only the strong taking what they want from the weak. And right now, I want this town to remember who's in charge." He snapped his fingers, and his men began to trash the diner, smashing plates and upending tables. Rose cried out in dismay, tears streaming down her face as she watched her beloved business being destroyed. Max's jaw clenched, a fire igniting in her eyes. She stepped forward, placing herself between Ripper and the terrified patrons. "Enough," she said, her voice ringing out clear and strong. "This ends now." The Phoenix Riders arrived just as Max faced off against Ripper, their motorcycles encircling the diner in a protective ring. They dismounted, their faces grim with determination. Ripper sneered, his hand resting on the hilt of his knife. "You think a few more of your little friends can stop me? I own this town." Max shook her head, a small smile playing on her lips. "You're wrong, Ripper. This town doesn't belong to you. It belongs to the people who live here, the people who work hard every day to make an honest living. And they're done living in fear." As if on cue, the patrons of the diner began to stand, their faces a mix of apprehension and resolve. Rose, the owner, stepped forward, her chin held high. "She's right," Rose declared, her voice trembling slightly. "We've let you terrorize us for too long. But not anymore. We're taking our town back." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd, growing louder and more confident with each passing second. Ripper's men shifted uneasily, their bravado faltering in the face of the community's united front. Ripper's face contorted with rage. "You think a few pretty words can change anything? I'll burn this whole town to the ground before I let you take what's mine." Max stepped forward, her eyes locked on Ripper's. "This town was never yours," she said softly. "And it's time for you to learn the true meaning of strength. It's not about fear or intimidation. It's about standing together, supporting each other, and never giving up hope." With a roar of fury, Ripper lunged at Max, his knife flashing in the diner's fluorescent lights. Max sidestepped the attack, her movements fluid and graceful. She disarmed Ripper with a swift kick, sending the knife skittering across the linoleum floor. The Phoenix Riders surged forward, engaging Ripper's men in a fierce battle. The sound of shattering glass and splintering would fill the air as the two sides clashed. The patrons of the diner, emboldened by Max's words, joined the fray, armed with chairs and makeshift weapons. Amidst the chaos, Sadie spotted a young boy, no more than 10 years old, cowering behind the counter. She rushed to his side, gathering him in her arms and shielding him from the violence. Max and Ripper circled each other, their eyes locked in a deadly stare. Ripper lunged again, his fists flying with brutal force. Max dodged and countered, her movements precise and powerful. As the battle raged on, the tide began to turn in favor of the Phoenix Riders and the townspeople. Ripper's men, overwhelmed and outmatched, began to surrender or flee. Ripper, battered and bleeding, staggered to his feet. He glared at Max, hatred burning in his eyes. "This isn't over," he snarled. "I'll be back, and I'll make you all pay." Max stood tall, her voice ringing out clear and strong. "If you come back, we'll be ready. This town stands united, and we will never back down in the face of tyranny." As Ripper limped away, the townspeople erupted in cheers, their faces alight with a newfound sense of hope and unity. Max turned to Sadie, a smile on her face. "We did it," she said softly. "But the real work starts now. We have to rebuild, not just the physical damage, but the trust and spirit of this community." Sadie nodded, her eyes shining with determination. "Together," she said firmly. "We'll do it together." In the weeks that followed, the small town underwent a remarkable transformation. The Phoenix Riders and the townspeople worked side by side to repair the damage inflicted by Ripper and his gang. Shattered windows were replaced, splintered furniture mended, and fresh coats of paint breathed new life into once battered storefronts. But the true change went far beyond the physical. The people of the town, once isolated by fear, now came together with a shared sense of purpose. Neighbors who had barely spoken in years found themselves sharing meals and laughter. Children played in the streets without the constant shadow of danger lurking nearby. Max and Sadie, along with the Phoenix Riders, became the unofficial leaders of this grassroots movement. They organized community meetings, encouraging everyone to voice their ideas and concerns. Together, they created a neighborhood watch program, ensuring that the town would never again fall prey to the likes of Ripper. One warm summer evening, the town gathered in the central square for a celebration. Strings of twinkling lights hung between the trees, casting a soft glow over the festivities. Music filled the air, mingling with the laughter of children and the contented chatter of adults. Max stood on a small stage, a microphone in hand. She gazed out at the sea of faces, her heart swelling with pride and gratitude. "Not long ago, we were a town living in fear," she began, her voice carrying across the square. "We thought we were powerless against those who sought to control us through violence and intimidation. But then, something remarkable happened. We found strength in each other. We discovered that when we stand together, there is no force on earth that can defeat us." The crowd cheered, their voices rising in a chorus of agreement. Max smiled, her eyes shining with emotion. "This is just the beginning," she continued. "We have shown that change is possible, that hope can triumph over darkness. But we must never forget the lessons we've learned. We must continue to support one another, to stand up for what's right, and to never let fear dictate our lives." As Max stepped down from the stage, Sadie embraced her, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you," she whispered, "for everything." Max hugged her friend tightly. "We did this together," she replied softly. "All of us." As the celebration continued into the night, Sadie found herself wandering through the crowd, marveling at the transformation she witnessed. She paused beside a small community garden, its beds overflowing with vibrant flowers and lush vegetables. A hand touched her shoulder, and she turned to see Rose, the diner owner. The older woman's face was lined with a newfound peace, her eyes sparkling with joy. "This garden was Max's idea," Rose said, gesturing to the colorful blooms. "She said it would be a symbol of our town's rebirth, a reminder that even in the darkest times, there is always the potential for growth and beauty." Sadie smiled, her heart full. "She was right," she murmured, "about everything." As the stars twinkled overhead, Sadie knew that the road ahead would not be easy. There would be challenges and setbacks, moments of doubt and fear. But she also knew that they would face them together, united by the unbreakable bonds of community and the enduring power of hope. In that moment, surrounded by the warmth and love of her town, Sadie felt a sense of peace wash over her. They had emerged from the darkness, stronger and more resilient than ever before. And whatever the future held, they would meet it head-on, secure in the knowledge that they had each other, and that together they could overcome anything. As the town settled into its new rhythm of peace and unity, Max knew that their work was far from over. Ripper and his gang had been defeated, but the roots of their influence ran deep. To truly ensure a lasting change, they needed to address the underlying issues that had allowed such darkness to take hold in the first place. Max called a meeting with the Phoenix Riders and the town's newly formed council. They gathered in the community center, a once-neglected building that now buzzed with activity and purpose. "We've come so far," Max began, her voice filled with quiet determination. "But we can't stop now. We need to look to the future, to build a town that is not only safe but thriving." The others nodded in agreement, their faces reflecting the same resolve. They began to discuss ideas, their voices rising and falling in a passionate chorus. "We need more opportunities for our youth," one council member suggested. "Programs that keep them engaged and off the streets, that show them a better path. And support for those struggling with addiction or poverty," another chimed in. "We can't let anyone fall through the cracks." Max listened intently, her mind whirring with possibilities. She thought of the young boy Sadie had protected during the fight in the diner, the fear in his eyes, and the way he had clung to Sadie's hand even after the danger had passed. "What if we create a mentorship program?" Max proposed, her voice thoughtful. "Pair up kids with positive role models. Give them someone to look up to and learn from." The idea was met with enthusiastic support, and the council began to hash out the details. They would reach out to the schools, to local businesses and organizations, rallying the entire community behind the cause. As the meeting adjourned, Max felt a renewed sense of purpose. She knew that change didn't happen overnight, that it required constant effort and unwavering commitment. But she also knew that they had the strength and resilience to see it through. In the days and weeks that followed, the town blossomed with new initiatives. The mentorship program took off, with dozens of volunteers stepping up to guide and support the town's youth. Community gardens sprang up in vacant lots, providing fresh produce and a sense of pride for those who tended them. The Phoenix Riders led workshops on self-defense and conflict resolution, empowering the townspeople to take an active role in their own safety. They also worked closely with the local police force, helping to rebuild trust and establish a new era of cooperation and accountability. Sadie found herself at the heart of many of these efforts, her quiet strength and compassion making her a natural leader. She worked tirelessly, pouring her heart into every project, every interaction. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Sadie and Max sat on a bench in the town square, watching as families strolled by, their laughter echoing in the warm air. "I never thought I'd see this," Sadie murmured, her voice thick with emotion. "A town so full of life and hope. After everything we've been through." Max draped an arm around her friend's shoulders, a smile playing on her lips. "It's a testament to the human spirit," she said softly, "to the power of resilience and the unbreakable bonds of community." Sadie leaned into Max's embrace, her heart full. "And to the courage of those who stood up and fought for what was right," she added, her eyes shining with admiration. As the evening deepened, the town seemed to glow with a newfound radiance. It was a light born of unity, of the unshakable belief that together, they could weather any storm. And at the center of it all, the Phoenix Riders and the townspeople stood tall, their hearts forever linked by the trials they had faced and the triumph they had achieved. They knew that the road ahead would be long, that there would be obstacles and challenges to overcome. But they also knew that they had something more powerful than fear or despair. They had each other, and the unwavering conviction that in the face of darkness, hope would always rise. Sadie and Max sat in comfortable silence, watching as the stars began to emerge in the darkening sky. They were two threads in a tapestry of resilience, woven together by the unbreakable bonds of friendship and the enduring power of the human spirit. And as the night settled over the town, they knew that whatever the future held, they would face it together, stronger and more united than ever before.